EFF leader Julius Malema is briefing the media in Johannesburg. We're going to take you live to that right now.
People's Assembly, which will be held between the 12th and 15th of December 2024 at Johannesburg Nazareth Expo Center under the theme Defend, Rebuild and Advance the Struggle for Economic Freedom. The National People's Assembly is the highest decision-making body of the EFF, convened by the democratically elected Central Command team every 5 years. This gathering is attended by 90% of delegates from branches of the EFF. Since we released guidelines on the 30th of July 2024, out of 2,123 branches that met the requirements to convene a branch People's Assembly, branch General Assembly, a total of 1,100 branches met, elected new leadership and programs of action and delegates to the NPA. A branch that meets the requirements is a branch that has 100 paid-up members who are registered to vote in their branch and received a minimum of 10% of the votes in the 2024 national and provincial elections. Additionally, 1,023 branches are currently preparing to convene their meetings in order to meet the deadline of the 30th of October 2024. The leadership collective is satisfied that the majority of EFF members have conducted themselves with maximum discipline and in line with the guidelines, which demonstrate a sign of political maturity and the growth of the organization, with the exception of minor incidents and disputes, which were all positively resolved. We want to commend all delegates and encourage all of them to continue with maximum discipline to defend the movement, because there will be a temptation to provoke us. There will be information peddlers and spies. We must remain vigilant. Registration of all delegates will take place at the University of Johannesburg Soweto campus on the 12th of December, starting from 10 a.m. All delegates from branches, regions, and provinces will be transported to the registration venue and accommodation in various hotels around Johannesburg with daily shuttles to Nazareth Expo Center. Once registration is complete, all delegates will be allocated to the accommodation, which will be different hotels across Johannesburg. Transportation to and from the assembly venue will strictly be through the provided shuttles to avoid unnecessary traffic congestion and to prevent fatigued drivers, since some of the sessions might take longer than anticipated. The registration of all assembly workers, including staff, media, local and international guests, and security, will take place at the same venue, University of Johannesburg, Soweto, on the same date of the 12th of December 2024. We have invited embassies and they have until the 30th of October to confirm their attendance. They will also register for accreditation on the same date and at the same venue. Part of what the Assembly must do, in addition to the consideration of the constitutional amendments, reviewing the work of the currently elected leadership against the adopted program of action by the Second National People's Assembly, and adopting a new program of action for the next 5 years, is to elect new leadership as the term of the current leadership will come to an end. We will appoint an independent, reputable electoral commission, which, as stated in the guidelines, will facilitate nominations and voting for leadership. All nominations and voting for leadership will take place at the Assembly in a transparent and orderly manner, as we have done in the past. Delegates, both voting and non-voting, will have an opportunity to participate in commissions. We'll have a total of 12 commissions: a commission on organizational character and redesign, a commission on land and agrarian reform, on gender struggles, media, communication and battle of ideas, health and social development, education, Pan-Africanism and progressive internationalism, the economy and state-led industrialization, state capacity, governance, justice, peace and security, sports, arts and culture. These documents are a product of engagements guided by the EFF Founding Manifesto adopted in July 2013, intended to stimulate and encourage engagements both internal and external. We do not convene the assembly only to elect leadership, but we must come back with a clear, well-articulated and practical plan of action. While we appreciate their intended purpose, we also want to remind those outside that these are not resolutions, but merely serve to facilitate discussions. The key highlights of the discussion documents include the following. On organizational character and redesign, the organizational character and redesign perspective is an update to previous organic perspectives, with a stronger emphasis on how the organization can defend, rebuild and advance the struggle for economic freedom. Central to this proposal is a focus on building strong, sustainable and viable organizational structures, starting with increasing the membership requirement for a branch from 100 to 200 members with a presence in voting districts. The perspective also advances that every member must be an activist with direct influence on potential voters. Additionally, it proposes the establishment of a robust membership system that can account for each member and support of the EFF in terms of age, gender, and occupation. Furthermore, it suggests devolving an EFF region into sub-regions to better reflect the realities of South Africa's political and social landscape. Finally, the perspective proposes doing away with the student command and reorganizing it into a youth command that unifies all young people into a single structure, encompassing those in schools, universities, at work, and unemployed. On land and agrarian reform, this discussion document reaffirms the EFF's ideological foundation concerning land reform, particularly the first cardinal pillar, expropriation of land without compensation for equal redistribution and use. It explains the failure to amend the property clause in Parliament and offers a vision of state custodianship of land, proposing legislation within the current constitutional framework. The document critiques the post-1994 land restitution program as a failure, calling for its replacement with redistribution-focused program. Agrarian reform is also highlighted, reaffirming the need for small-scale agriculture to drive the country's future. On gender struggle, the on-gender struggle perspective links gender inequality with broader socio-economic oppression rooted in South Africa's patriarchal and capitalist system. The document argues that the fight for gender justice cannot be separated from racial and economic struggles, as Black women and gender non-conforming individuals face intersecting forms of oppression. It calls for legislative reforms, education against patriarchy, and initiatives to address gender-based violence while promoting women's economic participation. The document champions the creation of a non-sexist, inclusive society that rejects patriarchal norms and foster equality across all sectors of life. On media communication and the battles of ideas, the perspective reflects on the media and ICT landscape in South Africa, focusing on the dominance of certain players like MultiChoice and the duopoly of MTN and Vodacom in the telecommunication sector, which drives up data costs. The document critiques the journalistic sphere and highlights how ideological propaganda against the EFF intensified ahead of the 2024 elections. It underscores the need to break the monopoly on media narratives to foster a more inclusive and fair public discourse. On health and social development, the health and social development perspective critiques the current National Health Insurance, NHI, arguing that it fails to provide universal coverage and addresses systematic inequalities in the healthcare system. The document calls for strengthening primary healthcare services and ensuring every ward has at least one clinic or polyclinic. Additionally, it proposes reintroducing 24-hour clinic services and increasing provincial healthcare training facilities. On social development, the document advocates for the doubling of social grants, the introduction of youth grant, and other protective social measures to uplift marginalized communities. On education, the education perspective addresses systematic inequalities rooted in apartheid-era policies, which continue to plague South Africa's education system. It calls for a decolonized, free and quality education system that provides equal opportunities to all learners, particularly the black majority. The EFF's vision for education include expanding early childhood development, ECD, improving infrastructure, and aligning higher education with South Africa's industrial and developmental needs. By addressing these systematic challenges, the document envisaged education as a tool for economic emancipation and social justice. On Pan-Africanism and progressive internationalism, the Pan-Africanism and progressive internationalism perspective envisions Africa's liberation from imperialism through unity, economic self-reliance, and sovereignty. It emphasizes the dismantling of neo-colonial structures and advocates for African unity and the nationalization of key industries to benefit the continent's people. Additionally, it calls for solidarity with global leftist movement to resist capitalist exploitation while promoting Africa's leadership in a progressive multipolar world order. The economy, state-led industrialization. This perspective addresses the crisis of unemployment and poor economic growth with a focus on transferring the wealth to the black working class and African majority. The discussion document rejects privatization and advocates for a state-led industrialization agenda that prioritizes infrastructure development, the nationalization of strategic sectors, and transition to state-led energy production. Central to this vision is the call for the nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank and finalization of the EFF private member bill before Parliament to transfer the ownership of the current central bank from the hands of few minority into the custody of the state to ensure that monetary policy is aligned with the developmental needs of the majority and addresses the abnormality of private ownership of the central bank in the world when overwhelming majority of banks are owned by the government on behalf of the people. Furthermore, the appointment of the governor and the deputy governors of the Reserve Bank must be made by Parliament through a transparent process with interviews held publicly, similar to the process of appointing judges, ensuring that the leadership of the central bank is accountable to the people and reflects the democratic will of the nation. It also emphasizes the strengthening of the South African revenue services to combat illicit financial flows, which deprive the country of much-needed resources for transformation. Furthermore, the perspective emphasizes the importance of transformation of the national treasury as critical. As in the hands of reactionary forces, this institution has been used to undermine efforts to transfer wealth to the African majority. This document also called for the increasing of corporate tax to ensure that the big businesses contribute fairly to the development of the country and for reducing the value-added tax VAT back to 14%, relieving the burden on ordinary South Africans. On state capacity, the perspective stresses the importance of a capable state in driving economic transformation and delivering essential services. The document advocates for building a developmental state that manages infrastructure, maintains public assets, and directs strategic sectors through state-owned enterprises. Insourcing essential services and abolishing tenders are key proposals to ensure that public procurement stimulates local industries and creates jobs, making the state the primary driver of national development. On governance, the perspective focuses on the EFF's goal of capturing political power to transform the economy and emancipate the black majority. It highlights the party's experience with coalition politics and the failures of post-apartheid governance, particularly in addressing economic inequalities. The EFF remains committed to revolutionary principles while grappling with the practical governance challenges, proposing strategic power sharing, effective service delivery, and structural reforms to uplift marginalized communities. On justice, peace, and security, the perspective says, grounded in a Marxist analysis of the state, this perspective critiques the post-apartheid justice system as serving bourgeoisie's interest. The document highlights the tension between constitutional supremacy and parliamentary sovereignty, suggesting that the judiciary's strong review powers hinder transformative change. Proposals include the strengthening of the National Prosecuting Authority and its directorates, such as Asset Forfeiture Unit, Specialized Commercial Crimes, Sexual Offenses, and Community Affairs, as well as all other essential directorates. Additionally, it calls for the appointment of the head of NPA to be made by a democratically elected parliament rather than the president, who the NPA may still need to decide on whether to prosecute or not, ensuring accountability and impartiality. The document also advocates for the strengthening of Chapter 9 institutions, including the Public Protector, South African Human Rights Commission, and the Commission for Gender Equality to safeguard democracy and ensure justice. The proposals further recognize the urgent need to address the rampant crime crisis that has gone out of control, with daily mass killings, high levels of murder, rape, and other serious offenses. It calls for the strengthening of intelligence services and overall security measures to combat these crimes decisively. Moreover, the document proposes that the Judicial Service Commission's recommendations be sent to National Assembly for finalization and appointment, instead of leaving these decisions in the hands of the President. The broader aim is to shift South Africa's legal system towards one rooted in equality, justice, and the empowerment of democratic institutions to better serve the people. Sports, arts, and culture. The sports, arts, and culture perspective emphasizes the need for transformation in this sector to overcome apartheid's legacy. The document outlines the EFF's vision of sports and arts as drivers of economic emancipation and social cohesion, calling for investment in infrastructure, promoting of women's participation, and support for local industries. The aim is to empower Black practitioners in these fields, ensuring their inclusion and economic liberation. All these discussion documents for the Assembly will be circulated publicly in all our social media accounts and will be sent to all members of the EFF, including members of the media. We welcome the election of the new mayor of the city of Tshwane, Dr. Nasipi Moya of Action SA, who was elected by an overwhelming majority of democratically elected councillors in Tshwane. The people of Hammanskraal, Soshanguve, Atteridgeville, Mamelodi, and Arankua have been neglected, left to live alongside illegal dump sites without clean and dependable water, while white suburbs were given maximum attention. Many of the suburbs dominated by white people are well maintained, with working street lights, painted roads, and road signs that are well maintained. We call on the newly elected mayor to hit the ground running, consult the collective, and deliver services to all the people of the city of Tshwane, and avoid prioritizing areas on the basis of race like the former mayor. We welcome the dissolution of the dysfunctional municipal council of Tabazimbi, and we view this development as necessary. The whole municipality is dissolved and is expected to hold elections in all 12 wards on the 4th of December 2024. It is the people of Tabazimbi who suffer from poor service delivery because of dysfunctional municipal council. We also want to commend EFF public representatives, particularly EFF members of parliament, who are visible in communities tackling issues of service delivery. The EFF is the most effective and constructive opposition in the 7th Parliament, providing necessary oversight and holding the executive to account. The EFF members of Parliament were the only ones visible doing oversight work during the constituency period, which began on the 23rd of September and will run until the 7th of October 2024. All issues observed during the constituency period will be brought to the Parliament in the form of questions, motions, member statement, and participation in committees. The EFF Parliamentary Caucus has been hard at work with all members diligently attending to their constitutional duty of holding the executive accountable through questions, motions, member statement, and robust engagements in portfolio committees. Since the beginning of the term of the 7th administration of the Parliament of South Africa, the EFF has been making progressive proposals in Parliament that are in the interest of ordinary South Africans and ensures that the executive is held accountable. These include, but are not limited to, reintroduction of the motion to nationalize the South African Reserve Bank, the motion to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate extortion in South Africa with a specific focus on the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal, the motion to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the use of ballot gloves by private security guards following the murder of the EFF councillor, Honorary Commissar Moshe Mphatlele. The motion to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the theft of pension funds from workers by private security companies and local government municipalities. The referral of the Minister of Agriculture to the Ethics and Members' Interest Committee for the appointment of unqualified DA members into positions in government. The EFF will continue with this work and encourages society to reach out to EFF public representatives whose contact details are publicly available to raise issues confronting them so that they can be given a platform in Parliament. We want to send our deepest and heartfelt condolences to the families of the 18 people killed in the Eastern Cape in Lusikisiki and call on the police to be decisive in dealing with criminals who do not value life, particularly that of women and children. Lusikisiki police station is amongst the top 10 police stations that record the highest reported murder rates, and this has been the case for some time. This is a clear sign that unless decisive action is taken, our people will continue to be subjected to lawlessness. Soon after the memorial service of the 18, we were informed that arrests had been made. However, on the very same Monday, another 6 people were killed in Tumbu, which falls under a neighboring police station. We extend our deepest condolences to the families of Tumbu victims as well. This continuous killing are indication that serious and urgent intervention is required. Law enforcement agencies must intensify efforts to bring an end to this senseless violence and restore safety and peace in our communities. We also want to send our deepest condolences and heartfelt condolences to the families in Soweto who have lost 5 children, allegedly due to food poisoning. We once again call on the authorities, including our own deployee to the city of Johannesburg as the MMC of public safety, to ensure that such things do not happen, but also that there are consequences. We expect a detailed report to be submitted to our office by the MMC of public safety in this regard. We reject the imperial forces marking the 7th of October 2023 as the day the Israeli-Palestinian war began. It was in fact yesterday, the 9th of October, that marked 1 year since the racist apartheid state of Israel embarked on a genocidal cleansing of Palestinians in Gaza, which began on the 9th of October 2023. In the past year, Israel has deployed high-graded weapons, including internationally banned phosphorus, to target civilians and destroy schools, hospitals, even century-old Palestinian heritage sites. Over 900 Palestinian family lines have been erased, with the death toll suspected to exceed 100,000, most of whom are women and children. Journalists and aid workers have also been ruthlessly targeted, while Israeli leaders openly declare their intention to obliterate Palestinian life. The complicity of the international community, particularly Western powers like the US and the UK, has been disgraceful. Despite the International Court of Justice issuing an advisory opinion to not be complacent in genocidal acts, billions in military aid have been channeled to Israel, perpetuating its war machine in what amounts to a proxy war. The EFF will continue to put pressure on South African government to cut all diplomatic ties with Israel. The EFF is engaging the Speaker of the National Assembly to ensure that the EFF motion adopted in the 6th Parliament for South Africa to cut all diplomatic ties is implemented. The EFF calls on all sectors to cancel or suspend economic relationship, trade agreements, and academic relations with Israel. We support the boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions movement. We reject the marking of 7th of October as the day the war and genocide against Palestinians began. Under the illegal occupation by Israel, Hamas legitimately resisted Israel's occupation of Palestine on that day. It was not an act of war. It is a battle for the freedom of the Palestinians. The creation of the largest open-air prison was a signal of the conditions for genocide. It has been 1 year and 76 years of occupation, apartheid, and imperial oppression. We demand an immediate ceasefire and an end to genocide. We once more condemn Israel's ongoing expansion of violence and illegal occupation in the Middle East. The Iranian missiles response to Israel's aggression against Lebanon, Syria, and the assassination of Hezbollah leader is a just and necessary defense. We send our well wishes to the people of the People's Republic of China, which observed the 70th anniversary of the founding of the Republic on the 1st of October, and we wish the people of the Republic of China well in the future as they remain committed to the peace, stability, and progress of the world. We wish the people of Mozambique well in their elections that took place yesterday, and we wish them peace as they continue with the counting. The people of Mozambique must respect the wishes of the electorate. We want to send our deepest condolences to Ray Macaulay, the senior pastor and founder of Rema Bible Church, renowned gospel artist and cultural icon Solimuholo, revolutionary poet James Matthews, and award-winning kwaito artist Sandile Ngwenya, known as Mapaputsi. We pray their spirit rest in revolutionary peace. I thank you.
Thank you, President. I think you need some water after that. Okay, we're going to take a round of questions. We're going to start on this side. So must we do 5 and then we'll take another 5 so we don't have a whole list of questions and sometimes we miss. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone else on this side? And then 5. Then we'll move like that. You know the drill, yes? Name, media house, and question. Thank you.
Siyamthanda Xhapha, News 24. Mr. Malema, You've just outlined the requirements for being admitted into the People's Assembly. I know the process is ongoing, branches are meeting. Have any of the branches or regions been disqualified based on the 10% rule that you put in place? And in terms of the logistics, which embassies have you invited to your People's Assembly? With regards to Tshwane, a lot of the parties that are in the multi-party charter, including yours, have put their necks on the line. Do you believe those parties can turn things around in the municipality? And finally, with regards to Mr. John Steenhuisen and referring him to the Ethics Committee, how far is the EFF willing to go to ensure that the matter sees finality and that people who started working in that office are not paid? Thank you.
Good afternoon, it's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. Just as a follow-up to Siam Tanda's question, especially on Tshwane, given what happened yesterday, are we likely to see a reconstitution perhaps of metros where the EFF is involved, perhaps maybe Citibank? And then in August, following the regional assemblies that you held, the EFF's World Council in KwaZulu-Natal had instructed its PCT to rebuild branches and structures there ahead of December. How's that work going? Also, you mentioned in July at the EFF's anniversary that heads would roll in the Northwest and Limpopo, and of course Limpopo, we see leadership changes. How's that work going ahead of the elective conference? And then I just also want to find out, you and the former Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Naledi Pandor, remember you had made allegations against her. Do you still stick by them? Because she had said that you should provide evidence. If not, she'll take the matter further. You've mentioned the work of the EFF in Parliament and what you've managed to achieve so far. But I'm just also interested in knowing how the work of the Progressive Caucus is actually shaping up. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for the many questions.
Naomi Kobe here with YFM. My question also pertains to the city of Tshwane. I think, Mr. Malema, of course, we are seeing, some tensions playing out between those GNU partners, the DA and ANC there. Firstly, what do you make of what is playing out in the city of Tshwane? Just your honest, open opinion there. And then do you feel, this is an opportunity for the EFF to, I suppose, strengthen and maybe regain some traction there in Gauteng and the city of Tshwane? Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
Kotatso Marisa from the Sunday Times. In relation to Tshwane, maybe to start there, do you as EFF believe perhaps that there should be sharing of mayoral chain with ANC having Joburg, Action SA now having Tshwane? Do you believe EFF should perhaps get Ekurhuleni? And then I think maybe these two should be linked. The proposal to move the branch in good standing from 100 members to 200 members, what is the rationale there? Is it not too high? And then maybe the one about maybe to expand on getting rid of the student command. What do you think would be the effect on universities? I mean, a lot of people a lot of parties are contesting. It's a very hotly contested terrain. I had another one. How do you think, or how do you propose the aligning of curriculum in universities or in higher education to industrial needs? I mean, how would that work? Do you think the curriculum as it stands should be overhauled altogether? Should there be addition of subjects? I mean, what are you looking at? Mining? And maybe just an expansion on that. Thank you. Sorry for the long questions.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kokotso.
Good morning, Shannon Merrick from Kasi Broadcasting Africa. All protocol observed. My first batch, I'll deal with the EFF. Maybe later I'll come back to gossip and things like that if there's more time. It's clear from the statement that is made by the EFF president that EFF has done an audit of its branches, its members, and so on. With the National People's Assembly being in a few weeks, what is the strength, the weakness, the opportunities, and the threats for EFF going to the NPA, coming from the 2024 national elections and going to the 2026 national elections, if that can be answered as one? And then the the student command being dissolved for the youth league, for lack of a better word. What's the future or the time frame for the women's league as well? Last but not least, did EFF dump the Progressive Black Business Caucus in favor of the Gauteng Government of National Unity? I'll come back later. Thank you.
We're not giving you any more questions. Thank you, President.
Thank you very much. Of course, there are regions that are disqualified if your branches, like in KZN, we only have 14 branches that have met the requirement of 10%. Only 14, SG. Yes. Yes. So what we did, because there are so many branches that are disqualified by not meeting the requirement of 10%, we then invited branches that got 100 votes and above. Because for you to be a branch, you have to have 100 members in good standing. So why would you have 100 members in good standing and not get 100 votes if those are legitimate members? So that's but they are going to come as observers so that they come to appreciate that this thing of not working has got consequences. That invitation has been extended to KZN and the Western Cape. But everywhere else, it's a requirement of 10%. And that gives us is one delegate per branch and 2,123 qualified. So these delegates are going to be gender balanced because we have used a zebra approach. So if the first qualifying branch takes male, the second one must be a female, the third one male, the fourth one female. So because if we say one delegate per branch and we don't put that gender requirement, we are likely to have a hostel that looks like this new hostel that is formed in KZN. So we don't want to look like that. We remain committed to gender equality and the gender struggles. Things will turn around in Tshwane. And when we say the mayor must hit the ground running, we simply mean that, it shouldn't take a mayor 2-3 days to send the trucks to go and remove illegal dumping in Mamelodi. If you go to Mamelodi, you will be shocked by the state of affairs. And you go to Mamelodi, you'll find people in Mamelodi queuing for water, something that we are used to in the rural areas, not in a capital city. So we have that situation, and because the party that was in government only focused on the white areas. So we hope the bringing in of the EFF, Action SA, the ANC, will have the interest for all, not the interest for black people or interest for white people, but with the priority being the black people, the African townships and colored townships, followed by Indian townships and the white suburbs, because in the white suburbs they've got almost everything. But the colors and the Africans are the most excluded when it comes to service delivery in Tshwane. So we are for mayor sharing. We are for Tshwane, Action SA, Joburg, ANC, Ekurhuleni EFF, but the ANC in its form and character is very disloyal to its own decisions because they had agreed to this and then only changed later against what we agreed on. And it's the nature of coalition politics. You have to navigate them all the time. You don't say because we agreed on this and it's not working, then everything must collapse. No, you continue to battle it out. There's a huge intention to remove the EFF in Ekurhuleni for whatever reason. And we don't understand why is the leadership of Ekurhuleni hell-bent at removing the EFF because there's a guy there called a doctor who's not so doctor in terms of qualifications like Gumani, is a doctor by name, like Dr. Kumar. So what happens is that the guy is so incoherent and has got no clarity of thought, and he doesn't know what is really going on in terms of governance. And he's threatened by the young, capable leadership of the EFF, which is well articulate and forever on the ground servicing our people. So we're dealing with a mayor who suffers from inferiority complex and who wants to disrupt people, disrupt the whole service delivery on the basis of just being scared of Dunga. Dunga is a threat, a big threat to that guy. I don't know what that guy did. We had a discussion with the ANC not so long ago, and they said, they removed Dunga because of the budget. He was not listening to them on the budget, corruption and all of that. I said, you removed Dunga because you say you didn't put your needs in the budget. But surprisingly, 2 days after you removed Dunga, you went to present the same budget of Dunga without changing a comma, to demonstrate that it was not true that Dunga is not listening to them. They took what Dunga wrote and went to read it. I told them right on their face that stop lying, because it's a lie. You say he didn't listen to you. You get an opportunity now to get a budget, change it to include what you said Dunga was refusing to include. You didn't include anything, including a full stop or comma, anyway. Then you said Dunga is corrupt. That municipality, the period under Dunga, is winning award after award. Because awards are not awarded during your term. I mean, they are during a year. After a year, there are, organization, institutions that give awards. Go and look at Dunga's year. It's receiving awards, including a clean audit. And there's never been any scandal of corruption. Can we say that about the mayor? They want to remove the EFF because the EFF said the chief of police must be removed in Ekurhuleni because of sexual harassment cases against him. A group of men want to come to, a group of powerful men want to come together to defend a powerful man against vulnerable women who this man has been harassing. So we are not saying he's guilty, but we're saying allow the process to take place. The ANC was refusing that until we met with Panyaza and TK to put some sense into this doctor and Jongizizwe. And you could see, I told them, I said, they wrote a message, they said, there's no turning back today. We're done with the EFF. I said, okay, let's look at what happened to where we reached a point where you say, today, there's no turning back. What happened today? What happened today is that the EFF supported a motion of the suspension of chief of police. And you are fighting for an individual, you are hiding behind nonsensical issues. And once you see them behave like that, you must know the chief of police has got something on them. because they can't reason it out. You can see these guys are scared. So we told them we really are not married to the positions. If they want to remove the EFF, they must feel free to do that. We have no problem with that. But we'll never succumb to corruption and sexual favors and refusing to promote people because they refuse to give you sex. And because we want to be MMCs, we must defend that. We refuse that. And we still refuse it to date. So we're not calling for any reconstituting of any municipalities. We want stability. And from the few days observation I've made as a head of GTU, not GNU, GTU. The mayor of Johannesburg, despite that he came in Chacharach with hiring people who would come from outside to be security officers, if he continues the way he's continuing, he's going to get this municipality stable. Because since he took over, there is some sense of what we are doing. And we want that kind of leadership with maturity. The deal in Tshwane, by the way, was made possible by Dada Morero, who did the behind the scenes for the sake of stability, starting here in Joburg, going into Johannesburg. So why would we want changes there? We just elected him and so far so good. Let's give Tshwane a chance. Let's leave that Domkop of Ikuruleni to expose himself. He's not gifted, he's got no talent. That thing, if he's not careful, it will collapse in his hands, but we won't allow that. The rebuilding of structures in KZN, we're all now busy with the NPA. And the focus is on the 14 branches that made 10% and on the other branches that are going to be the observer. So far, we're doing very well with regard to that. And in KZN, all our structures are intact. There's no any region or sub-region or whatever that has gone to any of the organizations that are currently formed in KZN. So, and we met with the structures in KZN. We met with the regions, we met with the province. They all gave accountability and were satisfied with the explanation that was provided by the leadership of KZN. They put up a fight. It was not easy for them. It was not an easy task. And we had to reflect about it as to what were we going to do differently if it was us, given that challenge these people were facing in KZN. So we don't see any element of laziness, of abandoning structures and organizational work from amongst the leaders of the EFF in KZN. So there's no need. We have resolved. SG, someone was telling me there's someone who says there's still going to be a CCT decision about KZN. The CCT has taken a decision to leave the structures of the KZN as intact as they are. We are going to rebuild KZN together with those existing structures. So there's no structure in KZN that is going to be disbanded. If it gets disbanded, it will not be on the basis of 2024 elections. It will be on their failure to engage in the rebuilding process that we are engaged in. Northwest, again, we got a satisfactory explanation from the leadership. The problem is in Buchanan. And we disband where the need arises. And we're still seized with that matter of Bujanala, where we lost almost 27,000 votes. We cannot leave that unattended to and unpunished. It's a matter we assist with because Bujanala, it's a very critical region for us if we want to have an impact in Northwest. The ANC, in its articulation of 2024 elections, preparations, they had not counted Northwest in the top 3. That's how much they themselves had given up on Northwest. And then people go and play with such an opportunity because the ANC was saying, Northwest, well, it's gone. They were saying the top 3 is Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga. And then Mpumalanga was overtaken by Northwest. So even from the opposition point of view of the ANC people and their own internal research had confirmed that Northwest cannot be counted in the top 3 provinces of the ANC. But to our surprise, and because of what we have explained, we got ourselves in that situation, which is, fixable. We were going to fix it. I wrote progressive question. What is the progressive? Well, the progressive caucus is there. It meets every Tuesday. The chief whips meet to prepare for a week ahead. And we have been on oversight, parliament recess oversight. So there was never a need because the progressive caucus works on the basis of what is on the agenda of parliament, what do we want to put on the agenda of parliament, which areas are we agreeing on, and then it begins and ends there, doesn't go anywhere. You can't say, as a journalist, that 200 members are too high, because you must ask yourself, how many votes win you a VD? 200 members or votes don't win you a VD. There's no VD you can win with 200 votes. Well, if we're serious about winning an election, and we're serious about building a mass-based organization, movement, we need to demonstrate it through the membership. We're not married to all of these ideas. We're just throwing them out there for the public and for the delegates to reflect and take a decision. So tomorrow I must not come here and defend the decision to retain 100 members, and then they say, you see, it's a flip-flopper. Last week he said 200 is discussion document. We must not engage in intellectual laziness. So even the student command, there is absolutely no disruption of the work that the student command is doing by introducing a youth command and say, today you are no longer called a student command, you are called a youth command, but everything else remains intact. There is just a name changing.
All right, that's CFF leader Julius Malema speaking on a myriad of issues. He was asked many questions about the goings-on in Tshwane. He says the EFF does support the new Tshwane mayor. It says that Dada Morero, the mayor of Johannesburg, is doing a good job thus far, and importantly announcing that the EFF conference will be taking place, the leadership conference will be taking place between the 12th and the 15th of December.